What it do? This is your brother Bishop of Bishop Zone TV. And today I got a hot topic right here. I'm going to talk about the R&B singer from South Africa who goes by the name of TYLA. Now, I'm pretty sure y'all have heard her record all throughout social media and on the radio. You know, I'm not no singer, but you know, it's like, make me sweat, make me harder. I had a little bit right there. But yeah, I want to talk about this sister right here because there's some controversy going on between African Americans or foundational Black Americans, however you want to call yourselves, and continental Africans. And it's all due to what she is, how she identifies herself, which she's from South Africa. She's of multicultural heritage. She is colored. She calls herself colored. And a lot of Black Americans feel some kind of way about that. A lot of Black Americans feel some kind of way about her identifying herself as colored. And I wanted to talk about this because it's a very complicated and layered subject. And I saw this conversation going on OK Africa on Instagram. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I was quite embarrassed by some of the comments from several African Americans on this topic, because it just shows that a lot of our people and a lot of Americans in general, because this is not just an African American problem, but this is an American problem. A lot of our people and a lot of Americans don't understand the world outside of America. Hell, they don't really understand the world inside of America, let alone outside of it. And a lot of people were confused by the term colored. And it led to a lot of ignorant comments. With all due respect, it led to a lot of ignorant comments. I mean, you got some, if you just look at it right here. I mean, here's one. The fact that they are proud to be called colored. And he has some smiley faces, some laughing faces. Then you have one continental African that says, let me guess, Black Americans trying to tell Africans how to be properly Black and being offended that we are not using their woke Black terms. And they wonder why Africans and Caribbeans do not F with them. This is what he said. Oh my God. Then you have another one right here. This is a Black American sister. Goes by the goddesses Nubiana, whatever her name is. Oh my God, these people got y'all referring to yourselves as colored. Shaking my goddamn motherfucking head. That's what she says. I mean, it's just, and it goes on and on. Oh, here's another one. Sadly, our cousins across the Atlantic are very ignorant of African history. Now, this is a continental African speaking about African Americans and probably other people of diaspora as well. Now, here's one sister. Here's one sister from America who makes some sense. And I'm going to go into why both sides should not generalize each other. But she says, my thoughts. She nailed it. Black America is part of a larger diaspora. Our experiences and histories are not the same. We need to be open-minded and learn. Most importantly, we need to respect other cultures. And then right after that, then you got this Black American sister. She says she can be whatever she wants in South Africa, true. But if she wants to cross over and make American music, money, that nonsense doesn't work. The term colored in South Africa was a part of racial hierarchical system which placed them above Black people. But all the downpressor Mun terms are bullshit. I guess I don't know what she's trying to say. The point is, we don't recognize that here. And if she wants to be included amongst Black music entertainers, she's going to have to claim Black. We don't like folks that deny that here. That's why Cardi B always proudly proclaims she's an Afro-Latina. If you want to make money off of us, you got to be with us. Which, I mean, okay, y'all get the gist, right? The problem with that mentality is that is a very oppressive mentality, and that damn near comes off as a colonizer mentality. You basically have to dismantle and diminish your own cultural identity to make them feel comfortable. That's a white supremacist tactic. That's a white supremacist mentality. In order for you to be comfortable, instead of trying to understand their culture, no, you need to make me feel comfortable and you need to get rid of your culture. Do not call yourself colored. Now, it's a little different in the sense that, yes, the term colored here in America has negative connotations. It was a racial slur. And so it's natural to associate colored with anything that's negative. But as a human being and as a person of the African diaspora, it would benefit all of us if we were a little bit more empathetic to other people's culture and a little bit more understanding. And at least like, okay, well, you know what, that kind of threw me off, but okay, let me hear what you got to say about your culture. I'm open to that. And unfortunately, a lot of these people who are commenting, I'm talking about African Americans, are not open to learning about other people's cultures. That is an American thing. That is an American attitude, because a lot of Americans, unfortunately, are self-absorbed because this is an individualistic society. So, we can't get out of our comfort zone. Even though we want people here in America, especially as Black Americans, we want white people to get out of their comfort zone and understand our history, our cultural identity, and anything that's Black, right? We want everybody to empathize with us. But then you don't want to empathize with these group of people here because you don't like the term, even though it means something totally different in South Africa. It's not the same. You can't force the one drop rule on everybody and expect them to just see things your way, because that's really what it boils down to. Because here in America, the Western Anglo-Saxon Protestant dominant society went by a one drop rule, meaning anybody with one drop of African DNA in them, and not literally, but any African DNA in them, they were considered Black. They were considered Black. Whereas in the Dutch colonies of South Africa, that was totally different. They didn't go by a one drop rule. And now you have a group of people called colored, which by the way, these colored people of South Africa have a higher admixture on average. Actually, they just have a higher admixture in general than African Americans here in this country. There's been studies to show that colored people have some of the highest admixture of different ethnic groups in the entire world. So when you see the average colored person in South Africa, I mean, maybe they would be considered Black in America, but you can understand why they would be designated as a different ethnicity compared to the white counterparts or even the Indian counterparts of South Africa and the Black South Africans in South Africa. You can understand why they would be considered their own identity, their own designation. And we can see that here in America. Take, for example, Creole people, Louisiana Creole people. Because of Louisiana's unique colonial history in comparison to other parts of America, they experienced a brief history of a designated people, a buffer between enslaved people, enslaved Africans, and white people in Louisiana. And they were able to establish their own identity and own culture that I think Black people now recognize as a quote unquote legitimate ethnic group, or at least a subculture, which is Louisiana Creole people. And nobody bats an eye when Louisiana Creole people proudly proclaim their Creole culture, their Creole identity. Matter of fact, a lot of Black folks ignorantly go out their way to claim that they're Creole, even if they don't have no Creole ancestry. But a lot of people have romanticized Louisiana Creole people. So, hey, people just proudly say, oh, that's Creole. That's this, that, and third. I got Creole in my family, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. But a lot of people want to be mad at colored South Africans because they have their own identity separate from Black people and white people, because they're just as much as Europeans and any other nationality than they are of African descent. Also, I find it very ironic that Black Americans have a problem with her identifying herself as colored when collectively, we identify ourselves as black, which is just a social construct that is a response to the term white, and also was a term introduced to us by our oppressors. Yes, you can say we quote unquote reinvented the term black and became a term of endearment, which, by the way, sounds very identical to the term nigga, right? You can say that. You can say, okay, well, we just took the term black, because if you really look at the history of these terms, black at one point in time in the black community in America, and I'm talking about the 1800s, was considered a negative term, because anything that was associated with black was considered derogatory, was considered negative. I mean, if you look at the term black from a European perspective, it's not necessarily a good thing. And this is what Europeans identified us as, or people of European descent. So black people at one point in time didn't like the term black collectively. So they used terms like colored. Yes, they used the term colored. At one point in time, black Americans used the term colored. Then later down the line, a lot of black people, future generations, didn't want to be called colored because it was a negative tone to that colored. Anytime that white people would call you colored, it would have negative connotations. So we wanted to redefine ourselves, and a large collective just agreed to call ourselves black. Of course, you had records like James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud. You had the Black Power movement. So black people in the 60s and 70s redefined themselves. But before then, people went around calling themselves colored. People went around calling themselves Negro. And then after that, we would evolve into calling ourselves African American. And a lot of people have a problem with calling themselves African American. It seems that collectively, the term black is the most suggested way for us to identify one another. Now, me personally, I consider ourselves Americanized Africans due to our history. Yes, Americanized Africans. I said what the fuck I said. Americanized Africans. But I do use the term black because it's just a term that everybody is familiar with. You know, and I use the term African Americans too, because it's a term that everybody is familiar with. But you cannot sit there and shit on South Africans and shit on colored South Africans when we have our own issues when it comes to cultural identification. And it's gonna happen because we are both people that have been colonized, that have been enslaved, that have had our ancestry, our indigenous ancestry stripped from us, and then had to be pretty much redefined in their image. So everything is a response to these cultural oppressions that have plagued us for generations upon generations. These are the results of a group of descendants who are dealing with the aftermath of colonialism and enslavement. And in order for these institutions, these atrocities to be successful and reign as long as they did, you have to dehumanize the people and you have to de-Africanize the people. And unfortunately, the men that are in control of these atrocities will take advantage of their position, assert their power, and sexually exploit African women at will. And you have these descendants who are a mixture of these different cultures, not in unison, but as a result of sexual exploitation. And you have some confusion, but the bottom line is we have to be empathetic to one another. We have to understand cultures, and you cannot impose your beliefs on people, because when you impose your beliefs on people to reaffirm your comfortability, you're no different than the white supremacists who inflicted that harm and that trauma on your people. I'm just saying.